Hi, class. I wanted to walk you through what I think a really good background literature review looks like. So I'm going to walk you through this example that one of the groups found. And if you want to follow along, you can look up the article really easily using this information. So this is the PubMed ID. And if you open up PubMed and you just type in the numbers 287 05601, you can find this article. But for now, I'll just have you follow along with me. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit past the abstract and look, just starting, this is the first paragraph. And this article is really tightly organized with headings. So this is number 1, introduction, and then 2, methods. But in the introduction, I want you to see this paragraph, okay? So this paragraph, the thing that I like about it is it substantiates every single claim that it makes, okay? So I'm just going to read out loud here. It says, so cannabis, widely called marijuana in the United States, is the most commonly used psychoactive substance in the US aside from alcohol or cigarettes. And then, while some individuals can use cannabis without harm, and then it has a citation for that claim, potential adverse consequences are numerous, and it has a citation there. It doesn't actually then go into a huge amount of detail, but it does say, if you want to learn more about that, you can read this article or this other article, okay? For example, a withdrawal symptom can occur after regular heavy use is stopped or decreased. And then here, there are actually 1, 2, 3 articles that have talked about that. So for this one claim that there's a withdrawal syndrome that can occur after regular heavy use is stopped, there are 3 different articles that describe that in great detail. Cannabis users can also develop cannabis use disorder, whose criteria, defined in DSM-5, are supported by extensive research in adolescent and adults in clinical and general population settings. And again, there's an article that they're citing where you can look back to that information there. Other potential harms from cannabis include acute psychomotor impairments, which can lead to accidents and fatalities while driving, and then a citation, with further contributions to fatalities from failure to wear seatbelts and violations of traffic laws, and again, another citation. Many studies show that cannabis use is associated with work problems, loss of job, and low income. And here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different articles that all are examples of that. But instead of having those as the only citations, actually says e.g. here. And so this is a way to imply that there's a lot more research, but here are just some example studies that show that, okay? Cannabis use may be especially harmful during certain developmental stages. For example, use during pregnancy may harm the fetus. When used regularly and heavily by adolescents, cannabis may lead to long-term neuropsychological decline and impaired intellectual functioning. And then there's another citation. And then perhaps because brain development is incomplete before early adulthood, and cannabis may affect normative neuromaturation occurring in adolescence. And there's another citation. So there, it's interesting, the authors use this thing, perhaps. So that makes me think that this article suggests a hypothesis, but doesn't necessarily conclude that. So in this article, this is a paragraph that answers the question, why is it important for us to learn about cannabis use? So in the background research that I asked you all to do for this week, it asks you to answer that question, but none of these sentences say, it's really important that we understand about cannabis use because blah, 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 blah. It just starts straight from, for example, there's this problem, this can also occur, other potential harms are this, there are studies that show this. So again, it's just a pretty neutral, basic tone that's summarizing what we know, okay? I'm going to skip down now a little bit through the methods to the results section. Now, this is an article that is a literature review, and so the results don't show just one study's findings, but they actually show findings from lots of different studies. And so the way that this is organized, I think, is really helpful as a framework for how you might choose to organize your background, okay? So it starts with a bigger heading, marijuana legalization. Then there's the federal position, there's a paragraph on that. State medical marijuana laws, a paragraph on that. State recreational marijuana laws, a paragraph on that. So each of these are three separate things about legalization. Then there's another heading on attitudes towards cannabis, acceptability, and perceptions of harmfulness. Okay, so this is starting earlier cultural attitudes as reflected in historical sources. So here we have kind of a period up until the 1970s or so, up until I think this is now around 2011. And then information on public attitudes from US national surveys. Okay, and so this is organized where it explains what the construct is that's being measured. So in this case, how much do people risk harming themselves physically and in other ways when they smoke marijuana once or twice a week? So this is a question that's been in a couple different surveys, and then it tells you what the options are. And then it's organized by adolescent perceptions. And then after that, and it breaks that down a little bit by the age range and by the differences in time. And then skipping ahead, then the next paragraph is among US adults. Okay, so again, talks about what the questions are that were used to assess the attitudes. Okay, and then it breaks it down. So this is among all US adults. And the different time periods. And then it says the different age groups. So here it's among younger users or older. And then this is among different demographic groups. So this is women compared to men. This is by race, this one's ethnicity and then by race. And then this is socio-demographic characteristics. So looking at high school education, greater than different income levels. And so this paragraph includes just a tremendous amount of information, but it's very clearly organized. And then going down, this is about the epidemiology of cannabis use disorder, and relationship to cannabis legalization. So it starts with adolescence. So all of the following paragraphs will be about adolescent behaviors. So the overall trend, and then the next paragraph gets into the demographic characteristics, so how that differs by age, by grade, by race, and various other aspects. And then further down, it separately talks about adults. So with the same kind of paragraph structure. So adults, overall trends, and then that's just looking at different time periods. And then this is demographic characteristics. And so it says what the data are that they're using, and then differences by age, difference by gender, difference by race and ethnicity, and other kinds of characteristics. Okay, so this article, I would recommend that everybody kind of take a look at this article overall, but that's mostly what I wanted to kind of highlight for you, is how it's very tightly organized, where it starts with a very broad introductory paragraph with a neutral tone that just talks about why this is an important topic for public health. There are these consequences, there's these repercussions, there are these sequelae from using cannabis. And then it transitions into the data, and it starts with a broader category like all adults. Here's the information about adults. And then under that, here are some differences within the adult population by these person variables. And then transition to talking about adolescents. So that's a structure that every group can use for their background research. All right, I hope that's helpful.